Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Formula One. I'm your host, Jamie, and it's just me this week. It's just you and I. Jack is off living it up in Vegas. Well, she's on a work trip, but still, Vegas. How fun. So, hope she's having fun, obviously, and she will be back with us next week. We'll be able to hear all about her time in Vegas. I am very curious to know if she will run into any remnants from the race because I have seen things on Twitter about how long it was expected to take or is taking to get all of the grandstands and all the fan zones and stuff, all of that stuff taken down. So I'm curious to see if she runs into any of that. We will see. Stay tuned for next week. But in terms of this week, we do have some news, some of it pretty major. So jumping right in with the biggest news since the last time we talked, Gunther Steiner has been fired from Haas. He is no longer with the team. The statement came out that he was not continuing with the team with immediate effect. So to me and to that means he was fired rather than agreeing to leave. And typically that means that they'll have like an exit period, right? Where they'll bring on the replacement. And also there is a term, I believe it's specific to motorsport. I'd never heard it outside of motorsport. It's called gardening leave, essentially keeping that person on the team, not working necessarily actively, but just to give space between one position and then their next position, possibly with a new team, because there's lots of proprietary information and, we know how that can go. See Spygate. I mean, I guess that wasn't quite the same thing, but if you want to learn more about Spygate, we do have a whole episode about the history of McLaren and Spygate. But this was pretty surprising news for me. His replacement has already been announced. It's Ayu Komatsu, who was the head of engineering for Haas previously. So he'll be taking over the team principal role. And the thing is, I was very shocked when I heard the news. And then in the days after, I was like, well, why am I so shocked, right? Because Haas's performance has not been ideal, has not been great. They have not made huge strides in one direction or another. However, it appeared that Gunther was very much aligned with Gene Haas and with the leadership on where the team was going and the direction that it was going in. And it also seemed that he was very heavily involved in getting sponsors for the team. It's a huge storyline for that team of smaller team needing to get that cash injection. And Gene Haas has come out with some pretty interesting comments following Gunther being let go. One, he was saying that, there's no reason that the team should be performing as poorly as it is, given their close relationship to Ferrari. So, they do have a pretty close relationship. I would consider it somewhat similar to like the Williams and Mercedes relationship. However, the Williams is not saying, given our relationship to Mercedes, we should be higher. They're their own team, their own development team. They have their own engineers. So that was surprising. And Gene was also saying that there's no need for further investment. He's was basically claiming that money is not the reason that they're performing the way that they are, which is shocking. One, because like I mentioned, it's a never-ending really storyline about the smaller teams and they have less money. And if you watch Drive to Survive, there's been many an episode about Gunther trying to find sponsors. Early in the 2023 season, it was the whole story of Haas having this much smaller wall than everybody else because it was saving them money to have less people on the pit wall. There's the famous meme of them measuring the wind with a cup on a string. There's also article. I saw it on Twitter, so I don't have the link to the actual article. I just saw the quote, but the quote was from K-Mag, who was in 2022 saying that their pit stops were very slow due to, in large part, the fact that their equipment was old. Their equipment was from 2016 at that point. So obviously that was in 2022. Could have gotten new equipment in 2023 that is obviously not reflected in that quote, but it's a surprising claim for him to be making. Haas and smaller team is known as a smaller team, right? It's known as one of those teams that has a lower budget. So I think it'll be interesting to see where this goes. The tinfoil hat in me wants to believe that this is setting up for an Andretti takeover, please. But who knows, right? I think only time can tell. I think that maybe Gene Haas and Komatsu and the new guard, whoever that may be, if new people come in, um, maybe they have a different vision for the team. And I guess we'll just have to see. But definitely surprising to have a team principal of any team principal fired this close to the start of the season. And extra surprising that it's one of the big names, one of the faves, fan favorite, Gunther. So we will have to see what he ends up doing next. I can't imagine that this is the last we've heard of him. So we'll just have to see. Other news from this week. I do a quick touch on Mahindra Formula E. If you were not watching their social media in the last week or so, Mahindra announced their new rep slash content creator slash influencer, who was a woman. However, this woman was an AI character, like not a real woman. Just and I have to laugh. Come on, like that just isn't. Who made that call? Was there nobody in the room that was like, "Hey, maybe let's just put a real woman in this position?" Um, you know, and I won't dig in too much because the Mahindra team did hear the feedback from everyone on social media, and they have actually since discontinued their effort with the AI influencer person. So we can only hope. I think that the logical next step here is let's include some real women that are in motorsport. Let's invite them in. And I understand the thought behind it. I can assume was probably, Formula E, it's all about, innovation and technology and adopting latest technologies. And I imagine and understand that the intentions were good behind it. Execution was just a little bit off. So, it's people make mistakes, Hopefully this ends with my ideal is that this ends with Mahindra taking on some female content creators. There are tons on socials, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter that are very, very well educated, very passionate, and hopefully they get more opportunities. In happier news than those two, Mercedes has announced their driver for the F1 Academy season, and it's going to be Dorian Pin, who has done lots of racing with the Iron Dames. So very excited to see what she does in single seaters. Previously was in WEC / might still be racing in WEC. But yeah, super, super exciting. And just again, as a reminder, we'll do profiles on each of the F1 Academy drivers closer to the start of the season. So keep an eye out for that episode. But congratulations to Dorian. This is very exciting. This one's a rumor, but next thing that has been in the news lately is we were told around mid-season in this past season that AlphaTauri would no longer be named AlphaTauri, that they were going to be changing their title sponsor. AlphaTauri is the title sponsor. So that would be resulting in a team name change. Lots of names had been flying around and rumored and suggested. At one point, it was Hugo Boss Bulls, which crazy. Um, but the newest rumor, which seems to be, it might be legitimate, is Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, which I hate. This is bad. This is really bad. What do we call this team? Racing Bulls? Why don't we just bring back Toro Rosso is the real question. That's the real question. But there have been domains registered under Visa, Cash App, RB.com, and RacingBulls.com. So that probably means that there's something here, or someone's just buying these to try to troll people, which maybe I'll just continue thinking that until we have official confirmation, because this is a tough name. I might dislike this worse than I disliked Steak F1 Team. At least that's succinct. So we'll see. And lastly, which this relates to our episode topic today, McLaren is going through a little bit of a Taylor Swift reputation era. They cleared all of their socials, archived all of their posts, blacked out everything, and then just changed their bio to whatever it takes, which seems to be, it's going to be their 2024 slogan. So we will get into a little bit more on McLaren in this rep era in a second. But that brings us to today's topic, which is it's car launch season, nearly. It's nearly here. And car launch season being nearly here means that the F1 season is nearly here. Very exciting. Very, very, very exciting. So for our schedule, we have most of the teams with their car launch date announced. Two have not quite announced yet. We will get to them at the end. But I have the dates and the times in Eastern time for us to discuss. Shout out to the BoxBox app for having all of these car launch schedules just ready to go for me in the app when I opened it. So great. So first launches will be Steak F1 Team, aka Sauber. They will be Sauber to me. Sorry. Which will be on the 5th of February at 4 a.m. bright and early Eastern time. And I'm curious to see what their livery ends up looking like, just because since the Steak F1 Team rebrand, a lot of it's been like black and like this bright neon green. So I'm curious to see what the car ends up looking like, if they're going to be incorporating that. I don't know why. I just assume they'd be keeping the like black and red color scheme, because I don't know why I thought that. I guess, that is an Alfa Romeo thing probably. So we'll see. I'm curious to see what their branding looks like, and also where they're placing certain sponsors, because I believe it's Kick, or it might be Steak. One of their name sponsors is a gambling related company, which is not legal to advertise in several countries that Formula One races in. So other teams have run into this before. McLaren, one of their larger sponsors, is a tobacco nicotine brand. So it's Velo, which was like big on the side of their car, and they would have to change that for certain countries. So it'll be interesting to see as if it's one of their name sponsors. How do they plan on handling that? We will see. On the same day, a little bit later in the day, but not really, Williams is having their launch also on the 5th of February at 9 a.m. Eastern. Um, Interested again to see what this year's livery looks like. They had some really, really cool limited liveries last year. And also, I really, really hope that they keep that Duracell. That was just perfect on the upper intake. Hopefully they keep that. I mean, I'm really just commenting on liveries at this moment. I feel like we don't typically learn too much about the car itself in car launches. I could just be viewing them wrong. But I feel like typically, it's I focus on the livery here. And then, we get to testing, and that's when we maybe start to see hopefully how things are shaping up, but you never really know even with testing. I will note that the Williams launch is at the Puma flagship store in New York. This has received backlash on social media as Puma is listed as one of the brands to boycott from BDS. They have not made any sort of statements. They're also signed to a deal for merch and clothing from Puma. So I believe that's the reason why they chose to have it there. But interested to see if they end up making a statement or if they just ignore the feedback that they're getting on social media. Obviously, this is not a podcast about politics, but felt that was needed to mention as it is discourse going on online related to this car launch. Moving on. Alpine will be on February 7th at 3 p.m. Alpine has had some interesting little tidbits going on about their livery. One, they tweeted a picture of pink camo with a caption along the lines of blending in is the new standing out. And then there was also a video on their YouTube in the Alpine factory that had a sort of clip of a car off to the side that had a livery that we have not seen before. I don't think that they would accidentally leak their own livery in a video. So I can't imagine that was actually the Formula One livery. I don't know what that would have been then. But it could be any number of things. Alpine is in several different categories and has several different liveries in several different categories. I also would be kind of shocked if they made their car, if they had pink camo on the car. I think my guess, taking my guess right now, I think that they will have merch that is pink camo and blue camo, and they'll lean into the camo for whatever reason. I don't know. Camo was like a huge, what was that, 2015 trend? Not to be a hater. But my guess is the car will look mainly blue and it will not have camo on it, is my guess. So we know how great I am at making guesses, though, because I, not so long ago, said Gunther was going nowhere. And last year I said that Otmar was going nowhere. Maybe we just don't trust me. I don't know. Aston Martin will be on February 12th at 2 p.m. Aston's, their cars are always beautiful. So we will see if anything interesting happens there. Can't wait to see Fernando. Can't wait to see Fernando interacting with the new car. It seems that he has been given access to his TikTok account and has been posting TikToks himself rather than having the Aston Martin social team post for him. The content's been very interesting. I genuinely want nothing more than for that to continue. I guarantee you it's gonna stop at least before the season starts, but I'm manifesting a Fernando TikTok at the car launch. That would be absolutely fabulous. Next up on the 13th of February, we have Ferrari at 5:25 in the morning. Again, this is Eastern time. A lot of these launches are in Europe. Ferraris is going to be at Maranello, I'd assume. Um, car is going to be red. Crazy. I hope that they do another. They did a shakedown last year at their car launch, so they launched the car, and then Carlos and Cheryl each drove it, which was very exciting. That did fuel my delusion last year that the car was going to be incredible, but I'm already delusional that the car is going to be incredible this year, so it's fine. Everything's fine. And then we have two launches on Valentine's Day. And I will say, Ferrari did their car launch on Valentine's Day last year. I'm not saying it's bad luck, but I'm just saying it didn't go that great. So first on Valentine's Day, we have Mercedes at 4:15 a.m. My assumption is they'll go back to silver this year. They were the car was black last year and they had, it was this whole thing on social media before, but the car, I mean, it's the silver arrows. So I believe it'll be back to silver. I hope they keep what they had last year, which was George and Lewis's numbers were different colors. I think they've had it for multiple years before that, but it really popped last year with the black. So I hope they do continue with that because it is. I wish other teams had that too. It's so much easier to tell who is driving. Like in a zoomed out clip of the race, if one driver has a big giant yellow number and the other one has a big giant blue number. It's another suggestion I have, F1, if you're listening. And then McLaren will be at noon on Valentine's Day. Now this will be interesting because like I mentioned, they had this whole like reputation era, deleted all their social content, and added that bio, whatever it takes. And then they were starting to share like little tidbits of like everything was all black and dark and crazy and intense. And they released this edit of like all the news stories calling McLaren bad. And then they released their livery. Like it's already on Instagram. And so, like I mentioned, maybe I don't understand. I probably just don't understand the purpose of car launches. I take from it the livery. We already have it. So, what are they going to talk? I mean, they'll talk about, I mean, I guess their new vibe for the year. They'll show the race suits. I don't think we've seen those yet. But the livery looks great. It looks very similar to last year's, except a little less chaotic. Like there's a lot less. They had like blue in the livery last year. That's out. It's almost completely that papaya orange and then black. And then obviously for some of the sponsors, they have colors on it. Like for Google, they still have the Google Chrome colors. Looks cool. I will say they must be confident in their car because this social campaign, if the car starts out badly, yikes. But I can't imagine it would, given where they ended last season. But you never know. You never know. We won't know really until the first race. We'll get an idea, maybe, possibly from the car launch. Who knows from that, really? And then we'll maybe get a little bit of an idea from testing, but it's just testing. You don't know who's running what or who's trying to understand what about their car really in testing. So we do have still a bit of time before we know for sure if the reputation era is going to pay off for them. Last one we have announced is Red Bull, who will be launching on February 15th at 9:30 in the morning. Red Bull always has the same livery. So we already know what the car is going to look like. And if I am wrong about that and they do something crazy and different, you're welcome to send me hate in the comments because I am very, very confident. I'm very confident in that. I will make a sweeping claim that Red Bull will be running the same livery that they always run. I'm comfortable making that statement. Um, I do hope that they continue the campaign that they did this year, which was for certain races, they had like fan suggestions and fans could submit their ideal designs. I hope they continue that. And I hope they get a little bit more bold with it this year. In 2023, they did have it. They did run some fun liveries, but they were all basically the same livery with like some decorations from fan suggestions. Like, let's make something interesting. Let's get that white Red Bull. Remember they had that in like I think it was like 2015. Might have been later than that, but yeah, like let's get stuff like that back. Some real changes. Keep things exciting. And then obviously no date yet for AlphaTauri, who still have to launch their team name. It would be cool if they launched all of it together. Like one big event. This is our team name. This is our livery. These are our race suits. This is everything. But I'm sure they have to work it out with, title sponsors and get everything set up. So we will see about that. I believe they were on the same day as Red Bull last year. So maybe it'll be on the 15th as well later in the day because Red Bull's is at 9:30 a.m. And last year they launched in New York City. So we'll see. We shall see. And no announcement from Haas yet. They've been a little busy. So we'll see when that happens. Again, I mean, their new team principal, obviously it's a new position. Team principal is a huge position, lots to learn. But their new team principal is someone who's been with the team, had previously head of engineering. Before that, worked with Roman Grosjean. So not crazy new, but still a lot to settle and get figured out before the start of the season. So I'm sure we will hear from them eventually on when their launch will be. Another one whose livery I believe will probably be very similar to their typical one. Last year they had a little bit more black and a little bit more, I think it was just exposed carbon fiber than in years previous. Typically they lean more towards like an all white car with like the red and the blue accents. I believe it'll be something like that. So yeah, short and sweet episode. I will keep you all updated on these liveries as they start to come out in the next few weeks. We'll do some check-ins during news and chit chat, and I'm sure Jack will have some thoughts once she hears my opinions on this. So we'll double check in with Jack next week. We'll hear about her Vegas trip, and we'll also hear her opinions on what she thinks these liveries will look like and on the car launches and all the crazy news that we've gotten. So until then, I will talk to you next week. Have a lovely, lovely week. Love you. Bye.